The storm hit the outpost without warning. Lightning cracked across the sky, splitting the jagged peaks of the red rock cliffs. Dr. Rowan Hale yanked the emergency hatch closed just as a gust slammed the metal door against the frame. Sparks danced across the walls and a high-pitched whine cut through the roar of the wind. It was the sound of something small and frightened. Rowan's heart skipped. The outpost was supposed to be empty. Supplies, instruments, and his few personal tools littered the floor, but no living creature should have been here. Then he heard it again, a tiny, desperate cry, like glass breaking under pressure. He sprinted toward the noise, tripping over a fallen crate. "Easy, easy," he muttered, though the words were for himself, not the creature. The cry led him to a collapsed section of the lab. Debris covered a small, wriggling shape. Rowan's eyes widened. A hatchling, no bigger than a small dog, was pinned beneath a twisted support beam. Its scales shimmered strangely, shifting colors like liquid fire, and its wide black eyes looked at him with raw fear. It lifted a trembling claw toward him, and the sound of its whimper made Rowan's chest tighten. He didn't hesitate. Gripping the beam with both hands, he heaved with all his strength. Pain shot through his shoulder, but the metal shifted just enough for the hatchling to wriggle free. It landed on its side, shivering but alive. Rowan crouched beside it, brushing a clawed limb away from a jagged shard of metal. The little dragon's tail flicked nervously, knocking over a small tool tray. Sparks flew as one spanner struck a live wire. Rowan flinched and grabbed it just in time. "You're safe now," he said, voice steady though his heart pounded. The hatchling tilted its head, studying him as if measuring whether he could be trusted. Its scales glimmered again, brighter this time, almost as if reacting to his words. Rowan blinked. What is this creature? Before he could consider it further, a sudden explosion rocked the outpost. One of the damaged energy conduits had overloaded. Flames licked the walls, smoke curling into his face. Rowan grabbed a fire extinguisher, hissing as he sprayed it toward the nearest sparks. The hatchling flinched and yelped, curling against the floor. Rowan's eyes softened. He scooped it into his arms. Its small body was surprisingly warm, and its breath came in rapid, nervous puffs. He bolted for the reinforced lab alcove, sliding across the slick floor, dodging sparks that hissed when they touched puddles of coolant. The hatchling wriggled, claws scraping his jacket, but didn't struggle. His trust was fragile, but it was there. Rowan placed it gently on a cleared workbench, scanning the room for more hazards. The storm outside rattled the walls again, louder this time, and a shadow moved unnaturally in the corner of his vision. Rowan froze. The hatchling's eyes followed the shadow, its scales shifting violently, flashing colors he had never seen in any living being before. The colors almost formed patterns, lines, curves, symbols, then vanished in a blink. Rowan rubbed his eyes. Was it stress? Reflex? Or something else? The hatchling hissed, tiny smoke curling from its nostrils. Rowan's pulse spiked. This is no ordinary creature. A loud crack split the air. One of the lab's support struts groaned and buckled. Rowan reacted instinctively, shoving the hatchling behind a protective barrier just as a piece of debris fell where it had been sitting. He braced against the wall, breathing hard. The creature whimpered but didn't move. He crouched beside it, running a careful hand along its iridescent scales. The colors pulsed softly under his fingers, calming slightly, almost as if it knew he meant no harm. "All right, little one," Rowan whispered, surveying the chaos. "We need to get you somewhere safe." He scanned the lab for supplies, scraps of metal, wiring, tools. Something to make a temporary shelter, something to keep it secure until he could figure out what it was. The hatchling tilted its head and tapped a claw on a control panel half buried under debris. A low hum filled the room. Lights flickered. Rowan's brow furrowed. "What did you just do?" he asked, stepping closer. The panel blinked to life, showing strange symbols he didn't recognize. The hatchling chirped, almost proudly, and pressed its tiny claw again. The symbols rearranged themselves. Rowan swallowed, pulse racing. He was doing something. Something intentional. He knelt, heart hammering, realizing the hatchling wasn't just scared, it was intelligent. Exceptionally intelligent. Too intelligent. Rowan felt a mix of awe and fear. Whatever this creature was, it wasn't just an animal. And now, in the middle of a storm-battered outpost, with fires sparking and structural beams creaking, Rowan had a choice. Protect it, or risk everything if he ignored the warning signs. A sudden crash from the other side of the lab made both him and the hatchling jump. The lights flickered violently and then just as quickly went out. Total darkness. Rowan's fingers brushed the hatchling's scales. They glowed faintly, patterns swirling like stars in a tiny galaxy. A soft, urgent vibration ran through the bench. The hatchling looked up at him, eyes wide. Then it did something Rowan would never forget. It tapped its claw against the panel once more, and a hidden door slid open somewhere deep in the lab. Rowan froze, breath caught. Something ancient, something waiting, had just revealed itself. Rowan's hand stayed on the hatchling's shimmering scales as the hidden door slid fully open. A rush of stale, warm air spilled into the lab, carrying the scent of machinery and something else, metallic, faintly sweet, almost alive. The hatchling chirped nervously and nudged Rowan toward the passage. Its tiny body quivered, but its eyes held a daring spark. Rowan exhaled sharply. I have no idea where this leads, but I can't leave it here. He scooped the hatchling into his arms and stepped carefully into the dark corridor. The walls were smooth, almost organic, and faint veins of glowing light pulsed along the surface. Rowan's mind raced. This is ancient technology, or alive somehow. And the hatchling knows it. Every step made the floor hum softly like it was responding to them. Sparks from the storm above had stopped for a moment, but the tension inside the outpost was worse. The passage opened into a small chamber and Rowan froze. Scattered across the floor were dozens of broken toys, mechanical birds, small robotic critters, spheres that glowed faintly with stored energy. They were old, battered, but clearly designed to entertain someone, or something. The hatchling scrambled forward, eyes wide. Its tail swished back and forth rapidly, and it chirped sharply at a tiny wheel-shaped toy that lay cracked on the floor. Rowan knelt beside it. You want this fixed? The hatchling tapped the broken toy with its claw, then chirped again impatiently. Rowan blinked. It was asking. It understood. He quickly scanned the room for parts. Rusted metal sheets, old wiring, coils, tiny servos. It wasn't much, but it would do. Rowan's hands shook slightly as he worked, sparks flying every time he connected a circuit. The hatchling stayed close, chirping and shifting colors in what seemed like encouragement. Rowan couldn't help smiling. It's guiding me. As he tightened the last screw, the toy whirred to life. A small bird sprang up, flapping its wings and rolling forward on tiny wheels. The hatchling's scales shimmered brightly, flashing in a rapid sequence that almost looked like a laugh. Rowan felt a pang of relief and something more, pride, wonder, a connection deeper than he had ever felt with another living being. Good job, he whispered, even though he knew the credit wasn't entirely his. The hatchling pressed a claw against another toy, a tiny mechanical dragon with a cracked wing. Rowan frowned. Repairing it would be more complicated, but he couldn't refuse. Each repaired toy seemed to calm the hatchling, but the glow in its eyes hinted at something beyond simple joy. It was studying, learning, adapting. Then the first threat appeared. A low, mechanical whine came from the corner of the chamber. Rowan froze. One of the outpost's security drones, damaged during the storm, had activated. Its sensors were detecting the hatchling as a threat. The drone's single red eye glowed, and it began to move toward them with a clunky, menacing gait. Rowan's heart slammed. If it attacked, the hatchling could be injured or worse. Rowan didn't hesitate. He grabbed a length of metal pipe and swung it at the drone's leg as it advanced. Sparks flew, metal screeched, and the hatchling jumped onto his shoulder, hissing and curling into him for protection. Rowan kicked the drone backward, sending it crashing into the wall. He barely had time to catch his breath before the drone reactivated, slowly rising again. Thinking fast, Rowan grabbed the repaired mechanical bird and hurled it across the chamber. The bird skidded into the drone, sparks flying as wires crossed. The drone froze for a second, its circuits overloaded. Rowan seized the moment, sprinting toward the hatchling's safe corner and shielding it with his body. The drone let out a loud, distorted screech before finally shutting down, smoke curling from its joints. Rowan sank to one knee, panting. The hatchling chirped softly and rubbed its head against his shoulder. A small payoff, but enough to remind him they were alive, and together. Rowan's eyes flicked back to the other toys. One of them, a cube with embedded lights, glowed faintly on its own. He picked it up. Symbols etched into its surface resembled the patterns he had seen on the hatchling's scales. His pulse quickened. These toys, they're not just toys. They're teaching devices. Or keys. The hatchling tapped the cube, and a section of the wall glided open to reveal a narrow, spiraling staircase. What are you trying to show me? Rowan whispered. The hatchling's scales pulsed rapidly, almost insistently. Rowan realized it was pointing him toward something hidden, something it wanted him to see. His mind raced. This creature isn't just playful, it's guiding me, teaching me, and maybe protecting secrets older than the outpost itself. A sudden gust from the storm above rattled the chamber. A piece of debris fell from the ceiling, landing inches from Rowan's foot. He froze, then realized the hatchling had moved instinctively, nudging him out of the way. Its small body was trembling, but determined. Rowan's chest tightened. It trusts me, and it expects me to act. Rowan took a deep breath, gathering tools, the cube, and the hatchling in his arms. The staircase loomed ahead, dark and narrow. A hum, low and vibrating, came from below. Rowan's mind raced. What is waiting down there? What does it want me to find? The hatchling chirped again, its scales glowing brighter than ever, almost as if it were saying, "Follow me. You have to see this." Rowan's pulse quickened and he stepped onto the first stair. Every instinct screamed caution, but his determination to protect this small creature, to uncover the mystery it held, pushed him forward. At the bottom of the staircase, the glow intensified, revealing shapes moving in the shadows. Rowan's stomach twisted. The hatchling's eyes widened, its tiny body tense, but it didn't retreat. It had chosen him as its ally. Rowan swallowed hard. Whatever waited below, he knew their fates were now linked. The staircase ended in a circular chamber, walls lined with panels that pulsed with faint blue light. Rowan set the hatchling down carefully, brushing his hands over its warm, trembling body. The creature chirped softly and tapped its claw on the floor. The panels responded, lines of light flowing like water across the walls. Rowan's pulse raced. This isn't just a hidden lab, it's some kind of control center. He crouched beside the hatchling, examining its scales again. The patterns weren't random, now it was clear. Lines and swirls matched the lights on the walls. Rowan's mind reeled. It's showing me something. It's communicating. Every shift of its scales seemed intentional, almost like a language. He touched the hatchling gently. "You're smart. Smarter than anything I've seen." The creature chirped, then tapped another panel. Symbols rearranged themselves, forming shapes he recognized. Star charts. Constellations, galaxies, coordinates. Old, forbidden maps that should have been lost. Rowan's stomach twisted. This hatchling isn't just a child. It's a keeper of knowledge. A key to something bigger. His mind raced with questions. How had this knowledge survived? Why did the hatchling possess it? And more pressingly, what could happen if the wrong people found it? A sudden hiss of air made him spin. Shadows stretched along the walls as the entrance to the chamber shimmered. He wasn't alone. Figures emerged from the darkness. Alien shapes, lean and angular, their glowing eyes fixed on the hatchling. Rowan's heart pounded. The rival faction he had glimpsed before had tracked them here. Their weapons hummed, energy blades igniting. "Step aside, human," one said, its voice a metallic rasp. "The child is not yours to protect." Rowan shook his head, gripping the hatchling closer. "I don't care what it is. I won't let you take it." The creature chirped urgently, scales flashing in rapid bursts, almost as if it were lending him strength. The aliens advanced. Rowan's eyes darted around the chamber. Old tools, wires, and panels littered the floor. His hand snatched a small device from a nearby table. It looked like a toy at first glance but had delicate circuitry. He twisted a knob, and the device emitted a high-frequency pulse that caused the aliens to stagger, shielding their ears. Rowan seized the moment to dash deeper into the chamber, toward a raised platform with more panels. The hatchling clambered onto his shoulder, chirping. Its tiny claws pressed against a control pad as Rowan manipulated buttons and levers. Lights flashed wildly and a hidden floor panel slid open beneath them, revealing a glowing path downward. Rowan glanced back. The aliens recovered, their eyes narrowing, weapons raised, but he had no choice. He jumped into the new passage, the hatchling clinging tightly. The corridor narrowed, the hum of the lights growing louder. Rowan's breath came in ragged gasps. The hatchling's scales shimmered, forming patterns that reminded him of ancient writing he had only seen in fragments of old star charts. He realized, with a jolt, that the creature was guiding him to something it had been protecting for a reason. At the end of the corridor, a large chamber opened, filled with intricate machines and floating holographic displays. Rowan froze. Symbols hovered in midair, glowing softly. The hatchling hopped to the center of the room, circling a pedestal that held a small, crystalline device. Its scales pulsed brighter than ever. Rowan stepped closer. The device emitted a low hum that resonated in his chest. Rowan examined the hatchling's behavior. Every movement, every chirp, was deliberate. The creature nudged the crystal with its snout, then tapped a panel on the wall. The holographic maps shifted, highlighting certain star systems. Rowan's mind whirled. These are coordinates. These are destinations, and the hatchling knows them all. The truth hit him hard. This tiny creature held knowledge powerful enough to change the galaxy. A sudden crash brought him back to immediate danger. The aliens had followed, forcing their way into the chamber. Rowan's stomach twisted. They weren't here to negotiate, they were here to take the hatchling by force. His hands shook, but he steadied himself. He had one chance. Rowan grabbed a loose wire from the floor and connected it to a panel. Sparks flew, and the room shook as machinery hummed louder, lights flaring. The aliens lunged, but the hatchling activated another device, and a wall of energy surged up between them. Rowan's heart leapt. The creature wasn't helpless, it could defend itself, but only with him guiding it. Rowan realized the truth. The hatchling had been waiting for someone like him. Someone capable of thinking fast, acting decisively, and making moral choices under pressure. His courage and intelligence were now intertwined with its survival, and the survival of the secrets it carried. Every decision he made would ripple far beyond this chamber. He crouched, pressing the hatchling close. Its scales formed a final, rapid sequence, almost like a message: trust, protect, learn. Rowan nodded. He understood. And then a panel in the ceiling slid open, revealing a vertical shaft that led even deeper into the structure. A low, mechanical growl echoed from within. Rowan's pulse thundered in his ears. Whatever awaited below was alive, or at least dangerous. Rowan's mind raced. He could retreat, but the hatchling's eyes held something he could not ignore: intelligence, trust, and a subtle challenge. It was daring him to go forward. To protect it. To discover the secrets it had been guarding for generations. He tightened his grip on the hatchling. "All right," he whispered, voice low but steady. "Let's see where this really leads." The hatchling chirped, almost excitedly, pressing its tiny claws against his hand. Sparks from the controls flickered across the walls, casting long shadows. A sudden vibration ran through the floor. Lights blinked in rapid succession, and a hidden door slid open on the far side of the chamber. Rowan froze, realizing that the hatchling had just activated it. Beyond the door lay darkness, and a hum that seemed to pulse in time with the creature's scales. Rowan swallowed hard. His hands tightened on the hatchling, his mind racing. He had no idea what waited beyond that door, but one thing was certain: this was no longer just about survival. This was about uncovering something ancient, something powerful, and something the galaxy had long forgotten. The shaft led them into a vast chamber, larger than Rowan had imagined. The air was thick, almost alive, humming with a low-frequency vibration that made his chest thrum. Lights pulsed along the walls in patterns that matched the hatchling's shimmering scales. Rowan's stomach tightened. This was no ordinary discovery, it was the heart of something ancient, something alive, something powerful. The hatchling wriggled in his arms, chirping urgently, its eyes darting toward a pedestal in the center of the room. On it lay a crystalline object, glowing with inner light. Rowan felt an almost magnetic pull toward it. He set the hatchling down, keeping a hand over its tiny back, and stepped forward cautiously. Every instinct screamed danger. A sudden roar shattered the tense silence. The alien faction from before appeared at the chamber entrance, their weapons raised, eyes glowing red. "Step aside," one bellowed. "You cannot possess what is not yours." Rowan's jaw tightened. He had no intention of letting the hatchling fall into their hands. The aliens advanced, moving with a fluid, predatory grace. Rowan's eyes darted around. The chamber was filled with old mechanisms, control panels, and strange hovering orbs. He had to act quickly. With a glance at the hatchling, he understood: they weren't just fighting for survival anymore. They were fighting to protect the knowledge the creature held. He grabbed a loose control panel, swinging it at one of the aliens. Sparks flew as metal met alien armor. The creature chirped, leaping onto his shoulder, claws digging in as if lending strength. Rowan's mind raced. He spotted a series of small devices on the floor, tools, remnants of the ancient machinery. If he could activate them correctly, he might create a barrier. With trembling hands, he connected wires, twisting knobs and pressing buttons in rapid succession. The machines hummed, and suddenly a dome of shimmering energy expanded around him and the hatchling, forcing the aliens back. They hissed in frustration, striking at the barrier with their weapons, but it held firm. Rowan's heart pounded. It was working, but only temporarily. The hatchling chirped again, its scales flashing patterns that seemed almost like instructions. Rowan realized it was guiding him, helping him manipulate the devices. Together, they activated a mechanism that sent beams of light shooting across the chamber, triggering the dormant machines. A low rumble echoed as the floor shifted, revealing a hidden stairway leading further down. Rowan glanced at the hatchling. It looked at him, eyes wide and trusting. "This is it," he whispered. "We go together." He scooped the hatchling into his arms and descended. The walls pulsed brighter with each step, and a vibration ran through the floor like a heartbeat. Rowan's fingers gripped the railing tightly, but the hatchling pressed a tiny claw against his hand, almost reassuring him. At the bottom, they found themselves in a circular arena filled with massive machinery, panels, and holographic displays. Rowan's breath caught. The energy here was immense, almost tangible. The hatchling hopped from his arms to a pedestal in the center, chirping loudly. Its scales shimmered with blinding intensity, casting long shadows across the room. Rowan stepped closer. The crystalline object on the pedestal responded, lifting slightly as if recognizing the hatchling. The alien surged forward, breaking through the remaining defenses. Rowan's mind raced. He had one chance. He grabbed a set of wires and threw them across the floor, creating an impromptu trap. Sparks leapt and the alien stumbled, giving him precious seconds. He turned to the hatchling. "Now," he commanded, voice steady despite his pounding heart. The hatchling tapped the crystalline device. Energy flared, beams shooting upward, forming a protective cocoon around it. Rowan shielded his eyes as light and sound assaulted him. The aliens roared, striking at the barrier, but it was too strong. Rowan realized the hatchling was not just defending itself, it was activating its own potential. The room shook violently as the machinery hummed, gears spinning and panels flashing. Rowan felt a pull in his chest, like the room itself recognized the hatchling as a rightful heir, a leader, a future force. He stumbled but held firm, keeping the hatchling safe. The energy dome pulsed and suddenly the chamber fell silent. The aliens had retreated, smoke curling from their disrupted circuits. Rowan exhaled, chest heaving, looking at the hatchling in awe. Its scales glimmered softly now, no longer flashing frantically, but radiating a calm, powerful light. It chirped, nudging Rowan gently. The bond between them had deepened beyond words. Rowan realized then that this tiny creature, this fragile hatchling, had the intelligence, the courage, and the potential to influence entire galaxies. And it had chosen him as its guardian. A subtle vibration ran through the floor again, different this time, slower, deliberate. Rowan glanced at the hatchling. Its eyes widened and it pressed a claw against his hand. A hidden panel on the far side of the arena slid open, revealing a dark corridor descending even deeper. Rowan felt a mix of fear and determination. Whatever lay beyond it would test them both, and he was ready. He lifted the hatchling gently into his arms, feeling its warmth and trust. "We've made it this far," he whispered. "But I have a feeling, this isn't the end." The hatchling chirped, almost as if agreeing. Rowan's pulse quickened. He understood now. The knowledge, the power, and the destiny of this creature were far larger than either of them alone. A final glance at the crystalline pedestal showed the energy settling into a steady glow. It was alive, aware, and connected to the hatchling. Rowan swallowed hard, heart hammering. He had faced impossible odds, used every ounce of courage, and relied on his intelligence and determination. But the real challenge was just beginning. The chamber was silent now, save for the faint hum of the machinery. Rowan took a deep breath and stepped toward the new passage, the hatchling in his arms. Every instinct screamed caution, yet every decision had led them here. He knew that whatever lay ahead would test everything he was, his bravery, his ingenuity, and his compassion. Rowan's footsteps echoed through the dark corridor, the hatchling cradled carefully in his arms. Its scales pulsed softly, a comforting rhythm against the storm of his thoughts. Every fiber of his being screamed caution, yet he knew the hatchling's guidance had never failed. Every instinct, every decision had led them here. Now whatever waited ahead would test them, test him, in ways he could barely imagine. The corridor opened into a chamber bathed in golden light. Rowan blinked against the brightness. The walls shimmered with energy, floating symbols moving like stars caught in a gentle current. At the center, a massive structure spiraled upward, an engine of unknown design humming with barely contained power. The hatchling wriggled, chirping insistently, nudging Rowan toward the structure. Its scales formed patterns he hadn't seen before, lines, swirls, and shapes that seemed almost like a map, or a command. Rowan set the hatchling down and stepped closer. "I don't know what all this does," he whispered, voice trembling. "But we'll figure it out, together." The hatchling pressed its claw to the nearest panel. The engine responded immediately, lights flaring in a precise sequence. The symbols on the walls shifted, revealing star systems, coordinates, and energy flows. Rowan's chest tightened. This creature, it's showing me the path to influence, to leadership. It's more than a hatchling. It's a future emperor. Suddenly the chamber shuddered. A low vibration grew into a deep roar. The aliens from before appeared at the entrance, weapons igniting. Rowan's stomach twisted. They had tracked them again, determined to seize the hatchling by force. He felt a pang of fear, but it was short-lived. He had faced impossible odds before, and he would again. He grabbed a length of piping from the floor, spinning it at the nearest alien. Sparks flew as metal struck armor. The hatchling chirped, leaping onto his shoulder, claws digging in as it emitted a high-pitched, resonant call. The engine responded. Panels shifted, energy barriers flaring to life. The aliens hissed and stumbled, caught off guard by the synchronized defense. Rowan realized the hatchling wasn't just defending itself, it was commanding the chamber's power, guiding him, relying on him, trusting him. Rowan acted decisively, manipulating wires, panels, and levers as he followed the hatchling's subtle signals. Sparks erupted, lights danced across the room, and for a moment, the chamber became a symphony of human courage and alien intelligence. The aliens faltered, retreating toward the corridor. Rowan's heart hammered, but he didn't let his guard down. Every move mattered. Every second counted. Finally, the aliens retreated, hissing in frustration. The chamber fell silent except for the soft hum of the massive engine. Rowan sank to his knees, sweat and soot streaking his face. The hatchling hopped down from his shoulder, chirping softly, its scales glowing in calming rhythmic patterns. Rowan's chest tightened with a mixture of relief, awe, and deep, emotional attachment. This tiny creature, so fragile, so young, had led him through a gauntlet of danger, taught him and relied on him completely. He knelt beside it, brushing a hand gently across its shimmering scales. "You're incredible," he whispered. "Not just because of what you are, but because of what you could become." The hatchling chirped, tapping a small crystal embedded in the engine. Lights flared briefly, forming a projection of a galaxy, star systems marked and connected in precise patterns. Rowan's eyes widened. "It's showing me influence, guidance, leadership. And it trusts me to help it learn." A quiet vibration ran through the floor, subtler than before. Rowan looked up and noticed a hidden panel sliding open at the edge of the chamber. It revealed a narrow passage, faintly glowing, leading further into the structure. He realized the hatchling had been guiding him not just to safety, but to knowledge, to the keys of its legacy. Rowan's pulse quickened. Whatever lay ahead would shape more than their survival, it would shape history. He lifted the hatchling into his arms again, feeling its warmth and trust. "We've done well," he whispered, voice low. "But I think our journey is just beginning." The hatchling chirped in agreement, its scales forming a small, precise pattern against his hand, almost like a signature, a promise, a future. Rowan swallowed hard. The galaxy is waiting, and so is destiny. Rowan's eyes swept the chamber one last time. The engine hummed steadily, glowing softly, a testament to the intelligence and power of the hatchling. It wasn't just a creature, it was a being capable of incredible influence, and humans, Rowan realized, could stand beside it, guide it, and shine in the process. Courage, intelligence, empathy, determination. These had carried him this far, and they would carry him further. A soft chirp drew his attention to a panel he had not noticed. Symbols flickered briefly, coordinates to a distant system, faint but clear. Rowan's mind raced. This is more than a chamber. It's a map. A challenge. A mission. The hatchling nudged his hand toward the coordinates, pressing a claw as if saying, "We have work to do." Rowan's pulse thundered with anticipation. He took a deep breath, cradling the hatchling close. "Then let's go," he whispered. "Together." The engine's hum rose slightly, responding to the connection between them. Lights flickered across the chamber, revealing paths, destinations, and possibilities. Rowan knew this moment would stay with him forever. The day a tiny creature trusted a human, and a human rose to meet that trust, changing not only its life, but perhaps the future of an entire galaxy. As he stepped toward the glowing passage, a soft, mechanical voice echoed through the chamber, low and deliberate. "The path is yours to walk, but the galaxy watches." Rowan froze, chest tight, the hatchling chirping urgently. The words hinted at forces beyond his comprehension, threats yet unseen, and adventures that would demand even more courage. He didn't hesitate. With the hatchling safe in his arms, he stepped forward into the passage, the golden light stretching before him. The chamber behind them settled into calm, the hum of power fading into a steady rhythm, as if acknowledging that the first trials were complete. Rowan's heart pounded. He had survived. He had protected. He had acted with intelligence, compassion, and courage. Humanity had shown. And the hatchling, this small, shimmering being, had a future now shaped by the choices of a human who refused to turn away.